foot race. Will they catch him? Touchdown, Tigers!
The Jacksonville Jaguars select
Lawrence, back left corner of the end zone for Amari Rodgers, and they do it again. Another Clemson touchdown.
Okay, welcome into the TrevorCast on 1010XL, brought to you by our good friends at Claude Nolan Cadillac, beginning lasting relationships since 1905. Hayes, it's our weekly journey through the world of all things Trevor Lawrence, the presumptive number one pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this week, we're going off the range a little bit, but we're doing it with a guy who knows a little bit about the pressure of being picked high in the NFL draft. Former Chargers quarterback and Washington State All-American Ryan Leaf. Leaf was the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft in 1998, behind some guy named Peyton Manning. But there was debate now, Hayes, for much of the offseason about who would be picked number 1. It's fascinating, really, to hear Ryan talk about the process and the pressure of being picked that high.
And, Matt, I give you a ton of credit because this was your idea, and when you pitched it, I was like, Ryan Leaf, really? And he has such a remarkable story to tell. Yeah. And that's obviously the genesis of it, of being one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. And he struggled with substance abuse, and he has totally changed his life around. He's become a very gifted college football analyst. He is a motivational speaker. And the part of this interview that I love is when he talks about his experience speaking at Clemson. So outstanding job. Because this is somebody that I would not have even remotely thought of, and I thought it was one of our more insightful interviews in terms of getting to know Trevor Lawrence, the person.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different angles which we've tried to take the podcast, and I think it's been a lot of fun hearing different insights and different ideas from people all over the spectrum. And I think it's fun when you get a guy like Ryan Leaf who is not afraid to come out and say, yeah, look, it's a 50-50 shot when you get drafted that high. And everybody knows that. No one likes to talk about it, but that's the reality of it. And the reality is also this. It's going to be a 50-50 shot with Trevor Lawrence, too. Now, hopefully it's the good 50, not the bad 50, but that's where it is, this position that's high in the draft.
And I think the other thing that Ryan talked about that I think resonates is he kind of goes, he's like, Andrew Luck was ready. He was prepared. Ryan says, I thought I had all the answers. I obviously didn't. So I think it helps. If Trevor Lawrence fails, it will be because the Jaguars have failed him, in my opinion. It will not be because Trevor Lawrence failed. There is nothing about him that remotely concerns me. If anything, my excitement for Trevor Lawrence prior to the TrevorCast was more the player that we've all seen for 3 years, the dominant collegiate player. But the more that you learn about Trevor Lawrence, the more you see that this is somebody who off the field is pristine. I mean, spectacular in terms of work ethic, leadership, grounded in his nature. And he can handle the spotlight, and he can be clutch when he needs to be, as his record shows. It is just, there's nothing about him that remotely concerns me, and that brings up the boy that just feels too good to be true. Right. And life usually tells you that when something feels too good to be true, it is. But there has been no indication that Trevor Lawrence isn't ready to lead this franchise. I think the biggest question is, will the franchise be able to give him the environment that he's going to need to have a chance to hoist the Lombardi Trophy?
All right, let's get into it now with Ryan Leaf, former Chargers quarterback and Washington State All-American. Let's welcome in Ryan Leaf, All-American quarterback at Washington State, number 2 overall pick with the San Diego Chargers, and currently a college football and NFL analyst on numerous platforms, including ESPN, SiriusXM. I don't know. I'm sure I've missed many, Ryan, including your own show on YouTube. Welcome into the show, man. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, you bet. I'm really glad I could be a part of it. Thanks for the opportunity.
So, Ryan, you've seen Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's talked about this rare talent, this generational type talent. When you watch him play, what stands out as just, wow, this is what's going to make this guy unique at the next level?
Right, his size and strength is pretty impressive, but his leadership qualities, right? People will follow through through a wall. They really will. And the thing about it too is he's had this pressure on him since he could really hold a football. I mean,
right.
He's been considered the best at every level. Was the highest recruited player coming out of high school. Was the best player in college. And now is going to be picked as the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. So, he's prepared for this. He's prepared for what the pressure looks like, what kind of stress looks like. And what I think it's going to be more important to understand when it comes to the Jaguars is what are you guys going to do under Urban Meyer in the first couple of years to put the right pieces around him? Because like we've said, every player that gets drafted is talented. It's more about where you go and how that is complemented than anything in terms of whether you are a success at the quarterback position in the league or whether you're not.
Ryan, really appreciate your time. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Kind of on those lines, what would you recommend in terms of scheme for Urban Meyer, Darrell Bevell, and what will be the challenge that they have in terms of getting him ready to really have to be the week 1 starter here?
Was a little surprised with the Darrell Bevell hire, just because of some of the past in Seattle and things like that, and his time in Green Bay. But I can see where Urban Meyer's trying to go there. My biggest worry with Urban is he's a winner, right? His worst record ever, I think, is 7-5 in his final year at Florida. What happens when this team, improves to 4-12 or 6-10? How does he respond to that? When the pressure mounts, and it's different than college football. You're dealing with different players. That's my bigger question here when it comes to this Jaguars team and what it's going to look like. So I'm excited to see his opportunity at the pro level as a head coach. And then more importantly, I'm excited to see with what he gets to get his hands on in the form of Trevor Lawrence, because I think that's a big reason why he decided to take this job, because he knew he would have the chance to coach a generational player like him.
Okay, as a quarterback, Ryan, coming in the league first year, what would you rather have? Like you talked about putting pieces around him. What's more important, a left tackle that can protect you, or a guy on the outside that can get open and win individual battles?
Well, you can do some different things with scheme blocking to help, rush. If you've got skill position guys, that makes a huge difference. If you can trust guys out on the perimeter to go make plays for you, to do different types of things like that, that's huge. So, I think the draft pick a year ago in Laviska Shenault, I think that too, that combination of those two guys, I think could be super powerful there in Jacksonville. It could be for the foreseeable future with them together.
Ryan, I really appreciate how brave and courageous you've been in sharing your story with the world. As it relates to Trevor and coming in as the top pick, what is the challenge that he'll face in terms of winning over the locker room?
Well, I don't think he's going to have much of a problem with that. I mean, he's been beloved by his locker room for as far back as I can remember. And, what I think he needs to do is he needs to walk into that locker room and be confident, yes, but to look at everybody, find a guy that's been in the league for 10, 12 years, somebody who's done it consistently and been a great pro, walk up to them, ask them how they did it, and then kind of follow their advice verbatim. That's how I would go about and do it. And that's what I didn't do. I thought I had all the answers. And I don't think at any moment I've ever seen Trevor Lawrence shrink in the face of adversity, or losses. It had to have been rather disappointing to win the national championship as a freshman and then, lose it in kind of embarrassing fashion against LSU, and then not even get to the championship here in this final year last year. That's dealing with some adversity, right? He was a winner, and not to win in those big games has opened himself up to some criticism from some people
right.
thinking how he didn't show up and things like that, which I don't believe to be true at all. This is the consummate team game, and he's the consummate team player, and I think he's a perfect fit for Urban, the city of Jacksonville. And I hope that my Washington State alum, Gardner Minshew, gets the chance to stay there, because I think Gardner could be a great compliment as a backup or even help Trevor along the way after his first 2 years in the league.
Hey, we love the stash here, man. Love him. Absolutely love him. So listen, we don't see clearly, like you were saying, you don't see any cracks in him right now. But also, and you know this as well as anyone, any quarterback, you can say all you want about you've got it down, you got an idea of what you're walking into. But, man, once you walk into that game, on and off the field, there are pitfalls everywhere, right?
There are, but I don't – I'd argue that there's not more of a better player prepared since probably Andrew Luck to deal with what's about to come at the NFL level at the quarterback position. There really isn't. He is as prepared as anybody to get it done right. He's got a family life. He's engaged. You know, I've got an opportunity to spend a lot of time with Trevor. I spoke with their team a couple years and spent days down at fall camp and then covering them from ESPN. And you know, he is about as mature of a young man. And to your point, though, when things get difficult, how do you respond? How do you respond? That's the biggest question. I don't have the question mark for him isn't as big as the question mark is for Urban for when things begin to be problematic and when things begin to struggle and the adversity. Because guess what? He's never had to overcome it. When it's become difficult, he's kind of up and left. That's always been kind of his MO. So that's more of an interesting conversation I want to see play out on when things get difficult and this Jacksonville team is just gradually moving up, but still not, you know, great, you know, 4-12, 6-10, those types of things. He's never been under 500 in his career as a head coach, ever.
Ryan, I'm really intrigued by the fact that you were able to spend so much time with Trevor personally. Is there an impression that sticks with you, or a story you can share with us about, getting to know Trevor on a personal level?
Humility. He's the best quarterback in the country. And a lot of times, you know, I step on campus to talk to these teams, to give them, you know, to tell them my story and stuff like that. And you can really tell that a lot of guys kind of look at me and go, you know, who's this has been? You know, that's a great story, but that's not going to be me type of thing. Trevor he wasn't. Trevor stepped in and absolutely, had a notebook open, asked me questions, was interested. And that's meaningful. It was, of course, meaningful to me because what I was doing is an emotional thing, pouring out my soul, my story and everything like that. But to have somebody who it doesn't cost him anything to if he wanted to be dismissive of me or anything. But right. Dabo Swinney has done a heck of a job there. You see what Deshaun Watson's been able to do at the next level. I mean, this is a lineage of quarterback play at Clemson that I think is going to be remembered for a long, long time. And Trevor Lawrence is just the next one in line to represent that university in Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can't wait to see DJ Uiagalelei. He's going to be wow. Anyway, so Ryan, it's interesting to me when you were talking about Trevor. When I spoke to Trevor for a profile I wrote on him, he seemed very genuine. And and there are a lot of college guys when we talk to him seem genuine, but he was, he's one of those guys, Ryan, where he asks you what's going on with you in your life. You know what I mean? He's one of those type guys that is interested in you as well as you are in him. Did you get that from him as well?
Definitely. And that's the empathy part of it, right? Right. He's developed empathy earlier in life than a lot of other people do. It's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me. And it's something that I've really had to work on here later in life. When I try to turn my life around, when I get into conversations with people, I immediately go to, how are you? What do you got going on? How have you been? Those types of things, just because I want to know that stuff. I want the person that I'm interacting with to know that I care. And when you are a superstar athlete and you've been placed on a pedestal for most of your life, to hear that, especially one who's going to be the first pick in the NFL draft, most likely, that is so refreshing. It is so refreshing, and it costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to be empathetic and to be self-deprecating and things like that. One of the best examples of it was when he lost to Ohio State in the semifinal, and somebody's Zoom mic was on hot, and they talked about his mustache and how it was.
Right.
And his response, right? It wasn't anger. It was just kind of self-deprecating and fun. And he knows the bigger picture, and he knows he's going to get a chance to play a silly game for a living and make a lot of money doing it to set up him and his family. And he understands that. He has great perspective around what's happening next.
Ryan, that's fantastic stuff. Getting back to football a little bit, does it help him at all? It seems like the NFL game mirrors the college game much more so than really at any point that we've ever seen. Does that help, not just Trevor, but any young quarterback? Does that help get them acclimated to being able to be productive earlier in their career?
Definitely. The transition and coaches being more pliable to their stars. In that, I mean, if you look back to what Jeff Fisher tried to do with Jared Goff, like Jeff Fisher was kind of the old school, you will bend to my will and what I run, instead of looking at what your best asset is. And when Sean McVay stepped into that role, he immediately knew what was going to, utilize the best attributes to Jared Goff, and they got to a Super Bowl. And I think coaches see that more and more and more. And I really do think that Urban Meyer and the way they go about the offense are going to do exactly that. They're going to contribute and be pliable to what Trevor does best and what Laviska does best out on the perimeter, because I think those are your two best options on offense, and they're so young. They could be with this franchise for a long, long time, and they could finally have a Hall of Fame type of player if Tony Baselli keeps getting snubbed every year.
Hey, Ryan, thanks so much for being so generous with your time and sharing your story, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan.
You bet. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.
Thank you, man.
You're listening to the 1010XL TrevorCast, brought to you by our friends at Claude Nolan Cadillac, beginning lasting relationships since 1905.
All right, that was really interesting stuff from Ryan Leaf. I'll tell you what. Again, we want to thank our friends at Claude Nolan Cadillac for bringing the podcast to you, these interviews to you. What was your big takeaway from that?
I just think it's such a remarkable story to hear Ryan Leaf talk about visiting Clemson, and when he goes on these trips and speaks to teams, he knows half the room is going to fall asleep, half the room's going to tune him out, because these are alpha males.
And they're kids.
And they're kids.
Yeah.
And they don't think anything bad's ever going to happen to them. They have the world by the tail. And to hear Ryan talk about, here's Trevor Lawrence, who is the biggest star of college football, and he's sitting front and center, notebook open, asking me questions. He's like, for somebody to have that kind of empathy as I'm pouring my soul out about my struggle, it meant the world to Ryan Leaf. And I think it does tell you a lot about Trevor Lawrence. And so, again, to me, that speaks volumes about Trevor Lawrence, that if there's an opportunity to grow and learn, even if he can't probably relate to a lot of what Ryan Leaf went through, because obviously there's been no indication that Trevor is sort of ever having to deal with the adversity that Ryan did. But the fact that he was wanting to learn from that experience and wanting to show an appreciation for, look, you took the time to come speak to us. I'm going to be present here while you're speaking. And I just think, again, it's just he really seems like a remarkable person.
Yeah, I mean, present and engaged, which is really, I mean, it's, Hayes, every time we do one of these, I continue to think somebody's going to say something where we're going to go, see right there.
Right.
There's the fracture. There's the little fissure right there. That could be an issue. And it just never is. You just never see it.
You never see it. And, this will be the ultimate test, because this is a now 17-game grind. It's, we believe, an 18-week grind in terms of the regular season. You've got 6 weeks of training camp. And there is going to be a spotlight on him that is going to be more everlasting than the collegiate one was. The NFL season's just longer, and there's more people paying attention, and there's more access. So it's harder. The spotlight is going to be on him more than it was at Clemson, but there is absolutely nothing to indicate that he isn't going to be able to handle it. And that, again, I think you're going to see somebody that can have rare leadership qualities for a rookie in this league, because it just seems like he is wired that not only is he going to win teammates over by how he practices, but he's going to win teammates over by how he goes about his business and how he conducts himself and his personality.
Which is just unbelievably rare. All right, we've got 2 more pods to go on our 10-week journey through all things Trevor, brought to you by Claude Nolan Cadillac, beginning lasting relationships since 1905. If you like what you hear, write a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Let us know what you think.
Appreciate it, man. Great job. Dabo Swinney next week. Can't wait.
Cannot wait.